Hey guys, it is time to talk about everything I have read in June, and oh boy, was that a month. I have finished all of my started young adult dystopian series. Well, that's two, but still. I have finished those with all of the accompanying short stories and stuff. And then I also started the next Joe Abercrombie series, and I was able to finish it by the first half of July, so I will include the full series in here because I don't see myself making another spread for the same thing. So yeah, that was not a happy reading. And then I have read a vampire classic, and yeah, I was just so miserable for the whole June. It was just, yeah, it was so bad, so grim and dark and tragic. And honestly, I was kind of postponing making this video because I thought I did not have a good time with my books. I did not like everything. And it took me full day of actually thinking about what I have been reading to realize that no, I did not have a bad reading month. It was just nothing was really special, but almost none of these books were inherently bad. So yeah, my brain does the thing that sometimes there is just something small that I really did not like about a book, and then my brain is like, so yeah, you did not like this book at all. And I have to stop thinking like that. Also, my hormones were raging yesterday. So if I was doing this voiceover yesterday, this would have been a very grim video and very, I guess, sad video. But I am feeling better today. So I think I can give you more objective reviews of all of the books I have read. So okay, first thing that I am doing here is, as every single month, I am filling in the calendar with all the reads for June. I started pretty sparsely in the first half of the month, but then I have read much more in the second half of the month. So, with that done, let's start with all the reviews, and the first series I'm going to talk about is the Age of Madness trilogy. It was actually the last one I started in June, but this was the only series I kind of knew what I want to do for the decoration of this page. So I started with that, and as you can see, I have used this map tape because I love the tape and I was so happy to use it again. And then I added lots of stickers that kind of match the theme, kind of match the color scheme. It is maybe a bit all over the place, but it also kind of works together, you will see by the end. So, Age of Madness. This is the second trilogy in the First Law world by Joe Abercrombie. I have read the first trilogy, I think, last year, and there are also 3 books in between these two series. I have realized that I have skipped one of them, so I will come back to that somewhere later, hopefully by the end of this year. But anyway, I was kind of wary, but also excited to start this series because I was interested to see what was happening in this world. And in this series, there are some characters from the original trilogy, but we are following their daughters and sons. And this is happening approximately 30 years after the ending of the First Law trilogy. So we have Prince Orso. He is son and heir to the king. He is good looking but lazy. He is avid frequenter of brothels, and he is a secret lover of Sevin Dan Glokta. Yes, Dan Glokta, the daughter of the feared Glokta from the first series. She is celebrated beauty, capable with sword. She is a big investor and a ruthless businesswoman. She is obsessed with money and her looks, and everything she does is only for her own gain. Everything she does, even though it might not seem like it. Then we have Leo Den Brock. He is, I did not like him. He is naive and vain mama's boy, and he is confused about his own sexuality. He's also easily manipulated, and with the story progressing, his worst qualities are being more and more prominent, to the point that by the end of the last book, I just could not stand him. I was so annoyed by this guy. Okay, and then we have Rike, the daughter of Dogman, who we have seen and loved in the first series. She has fits that make her paralyzed, but they give her glimpses of the future. They call it the long eye. And she was raised by... This might be a spoiler in the sense that you know that this person still lives by this series, so just skip ahead. If you are on the computer, you can press L and it will push you 10 seconds in the future. I use that a lot. So, spoiler, she was raised by Cole Shivers. He is one of my favorite characters. He does not speak much, but you can sense his presence in this book, and you can sense that he is next to Rike most of the times. And as I said, he is one of my favorite characters. And then we have Broad. He is maybe a bit more of a side character, but we still get his POV. He is warrior that is maybe a bit conflicted with what he is supposed to be and how he is supposed to act, but he really likes being mean and brutal. And I liked him, but to be honest, he did not bring that much to the story. And there were even more character POVs, and to be honest, they all somehow just blended together in my mind, so I can't tell you more about them. And as is true for every single Abercrombie book, at least from those I have read, none of these characters are likable. You are not rooting for any of them. Well, maybe a little bit, but not like truly rooting for any of them. And that is totally okay. Like, bad character does not mean bad book. So, we have all of these characters. And at one side of the world, there is the Industrial Revolution happening. Everything had changed. Machines are taking work from the workers. And those that still have jobs, they are worked to the bone. Of course, people are not happy with that, and they revolt. This was quite interesting part of the story. There was so much politics done in here, so many arguments, betrayals, so much cursing, and so many explicit scenes. Like, it's normal for Abercrombie, so you just have to kind of count on that. And yeah, basically what I remember that there was so much politics being discussed, and everyone liked talking a lot. Okay, and then on the kind of other side of the world, we have North. And North is nothing. North in this series felt like a lukewarm version of the North in the first trilogy. I was not really sure what we were doing here, because the only good thing about North is that there was Rike as the main character, and I quite enjoyed her. So yeah, that's that. That's as much positive as I can say about North. I much more enjoyed seeing the Union's affairs. I was very interested in the beginning because of the kind of nostalgia for this world. Also, I was really interested to see what the children of the previously loved or hated characters are doing. By the second book, the novelty kind of disappeared. There was lots of turbulence in the Union, and I can't really tell you what had happened because I don't really know, and I am not sure characters knew what they wanted to do, because except the endless hangings of people, I feel like there was nothing much happening. And the third book was definitely my least favorite because the first half felt like I was reading the same thing as I was reading in the first one, but without the excitement of the new series. That one was dragging a lot, and it was the biggest book of the series. That one had 23 hours, I think, and to be honest, I was so ready for it to be done when I was maybe in half of the book. Still, I was interested enough to finish the book, and in the end we got this big reveal of the mustache-twisting villain, and I knocked out. I just know. I was not happy with that reveal, but you know what? It is what it is. This full series, it was 65 hours long. And guys, I can't up the speed of the audiobook much. As some people say they listen their audiobooks on 2x speed. Like, how? I can't take any pleasure in book listening to it like that. I don't understand anything. So if the series has 65 hours, you bet I have spent at least 60 hours on it in real time because I can't speed my books a lot, maybe just a little bit, but not a lot. So after 60 hours of listening to the intrigues and politics and betrayals and blood and gore and beheadings and hangings and politics and all of that, I was just so done. I was so happy I finished the series, but at the same time, I don't want to read another Abercrombie book for the next few months because that was a lot. So to kind of sum it up, I like the series. I like the first book of this series the most. Then my enjoyment kind of dwindled, but I'm still happy I finished the series. You can see that I have one more book cover in here. It is The Great Change and Other Lies. It is the collection of 4 short stories that are companions to the Age of Madness trilogy. They are these short, kind of behind the curtain stories that show us a bit of lives of the common people. I like the first one the most. The second and third, they felt like the rehash of the first one again. So I did not really like them much, but fourth one was also quite interesting one. So I liked that one as well. And I gave this collection of short stories 4 stars because of those 2 stories. That's my take on the Age of Madness trilogy plus the short story collection. And next, guys, next we have Divergent series. I have read the first book in this series last month and I decided to just finish the whole thing in one go. I was interested to see where the books will go, but I also knew that if I don't finish this series now, I might not come back to it later. I have finished both main books and then every single short story that was there in between all of these books and after these books. It was a journey. I think everyone knows what Divergent is about, but in case you don't, the world is divided into factions based on one character trait, and at 16 everyone decides if they want to stay or they chose to leave to the other faction. Our main character, of course, leaves and she joins Dauntless, and Dauntless is this kind of combat faction. And guys, I might accidentally spill some secrets, but nothing major. Also, I got spoiled for the ending of this series before I read the books, so I was not happy about that. But this series was released more than 10 years ago, so spoilers are kind of inevitable, but I will try to not to spoil anything major. So I have to say that we have lost everything what I loved in the book 1. The trials and trainings, her questioning everything, her being unsure about herself, her love for and them trying to find their way to each other. Triss's pushing herself to be better, stronger. And then book 2 comes, the world as they knew is in shambles. They are trying to figure out this big secret that is maybe not that big a secret if you think about it for a bit. There is lots of action, yeah, I will give it that. They move from faction to faction a lot. They kind of resemble chickens, I'm sorry, but but yeah, something is always happening, but it sometimes feels like it goes way into the background because we need to see our main couple being mean to each other. As much as I liked their relationship in the first book, I disliked it here so much. We do change the scenery for the third book, but nothing really changes for them because even when their world has broadened a lot, their problems are still the same, only with different names. There was a lot of new things we needed to learn as the readers. It got confusing at times, but overall I did enjoy this series when I stopped thinking deeper about stuff. Also, I have to mention Edith Force POV in the last book. I did not like that. I think it slowed down the pace of the book quite a lot and it did not really bring that much new to the story. I was not a fan of that. Also, if I was not listening to the audiobook, I would never know who is speaking or thinking because their POVs were absolutely same. They were talking in the same way, they were thinking in the same way. There was nothing different about them. So if the audiobook did not change the narrator for the Force perspective, I would never know who was speaking, and I would be pretty confused about that. So the conclusion, I like this for what it was, and I understand why Hunger Games is much more popular than Divergent. I did not understand that before I started this series, but now I do, and now I am content that I finally read this series. Yeah, there is new book coming out this year, I think. I will definitely read it. I will not have big expectations, but I will read it. I have given these books 3 stars each, and that's, to me, that is okay book. That is something that I was interested enough in to finish, and it did not disappoint me much. So, okay, the short stories. Oh my god, there were 7 or 8 short stories. There are 4 in the 4 collection, so that's the dark blue picture I have in the top left corner. Then there is Free 4, that's one, and We Can Be Mended, that's the last one that is happening after everything, after the full series. I have one question. Why these short stories exist? They are written as Force POV, and they brought absolutely nothing to the series, and yet I did read them all. I was kind of meh about them, and I totally hated the last one. I'm not going to tell you what it is about, but I'm going to say that the author could have chosen anyone else. Anyone. And it would make more sense than what she did. That's my rant about the short stories. It is funny how you dislike where this story is going, yet you can't stop reading. It is like self-inflicted torture or something. Thankfully, most of the stories were very short. Okay, so yeah, that was the Divergent series. I really like how I decorated this page. I put here the girl doing tattoos because that was kind of a thing in the Divergent series, and I did not have anything better representing this series. We have 2 more books to talk about, and for this page I did not really have that much I wanted to talk about, so I just divided it into 2 sections, and I did teeny tiny section of black paper to the right side, and that will be section for the Carmilla. I got the ALC from Libro.fm for this book. Thank you so much, Libro.fm. This I have read as a palette cleanser between books 2 and 3 in the Age of Madness series, because I really needed to get away from that world for at least a couple of hours. This is a classic Gothic vampire story. It was published in 1872, and this was actually kind of inspiration for the countless vampire stories, even famous Dracula, that was released 25 years later. This is about young girl Laura living with her father in an isolated castle. One day, a horse-drawn carriage crashes nearby, and they take one of the occupants of the carriage, beautiful Carmilla, to their care, and she ends up living with them. Carmilla and Laura immediately fall for each other. At the same time, strange plague seems to be killing young women in the area. The whole book is basically just descriptions of the surroundings and Laura's descriptions of Camilla's odd behavior. And that's about it. I was excited to read Sapphic Gothic vampire story, but it did not really seem so when I was reading it. The relationship was kind of creepy. Laura was quite uncomfortable on multiple occasions, and even when it is often presented as an amazing sapphic romance, I think the author might not intended it so. We have this monster in woman's skin who goes after who else than young women, and only thanks to men are they able to banish this evil. It screams to me, be wary of lesbians, if nothing else. I did enjoy the first half of the story. I loved the haunting and this gothic atmosphere. The second part was not as enjoyable, mainly because we got mostly men's POV, which just repeats what had already happened in the book, and there were some racist remarks, which I did not like to read. Also, Laura is so clueless for the whole book, it pained me a lot, but I guess she never knew vampires existed, so I guess it is kind of excusable. It was a very short book. It was a bit more than 100 pages, and I would say it was just enough. For fuck's sake. That's my review of the Carmilla. And it seems that my neighbor decided to drill holes in the wall, so I'll have to continue later. Okay, they are maybe having a small pause. So let's continue. The next young adult dystopian series I finished is Matched, with the last book being called Reached. This book was as enjoyable as the previous two books. We have three main characters, Cassia, Xander, and Kai. They live in the society with big S, where officials decide everything. What you eat, where you work, who you love, what songs you listen to, when you die, they decide everything. And of course, because it is the dystopia, there is a revolution, of course. So this is no spoiler because that's just how it is. So this conflict between society and rebels, you would think it would kind of culminate in this third book. It does not. It goes all kind of in the background. I was not really sure what are we doing, but I still enjoyed those chapters, so that was okay. Author really tries for you to believe in the love triangle, but since the book 1, since the, I don't know, maybe chapter 5, you know who Cassia ends up with. It is just annoying for the third character to be always kind of pushed into the story, but Cassia always chooses the other one, and you feel so bad for that guy. The interesting thing I have realized about this series is that in the book 1 we have only the Cassia's perspective, in the book 2 we have 2 POVs, and in the book 3 we have 3 POVs of Cassia, Kai, and Xander. And I think I liked this the most because we got glimpses of what was happening in the different parts of this society or rebels or whatever. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed the Xander's perspective the most. One thing I did not much like about this book is that it was longer than the previous ones, and maybe the first 200 or 300 pages were not that necessary. It could have definitely been shortened. It seemed like nothing was happening because the author had to catch us up on things. So yeah, even when I was not really a fan of how the series ended, I still enjoyed parts of it. And that's everything I have to say about this book or this series. So let's now fill in all the yearly trackers and challenges in this journal. So, okay, I have not picked a color yet. I would love to go with yellow because it would match the theme. Yellow. I don't really like to use dark colors in here because of the decoration. I don't know, I might do that by the end of the year when I will run out of colors. But no dark blue for now. So maybe let's do this orange. We will have orange for June, and I have finished 7 books. So I am coloring in 7 boxes. And technically, I have finished more. If I was counting every single of the Divergent short stories, then I would have read 11 or 12 books, but I just count them as one book. So that's why this might be slightly different number than it seemed in my reading reviews, and that's fine. I just did not really want to count 30 pages long books for my reading goal. And the short story from the Age of Madness series, I read and finished that in July, so that will go towards July statistics, as well as A Wisdom of Crowds. That's the third book in the Age of Madness series. I just wanted to do a review for all of them all at once because that made sense to me. Okay, 7 boxes are colored in, and we are getting so close to my yearly reading kind of goal. It is not really a goal. I would love to read 1 book a week for the whole year, and if I reach that, it is awesome. If I don't, it is okay. So this is just like number of books that I aim to read, but nothing happens if I don't reach it. Okay, next let's add all the book covers. As you can see, there are more than 7 book covers, and that's because I decided to add book covers of all the Divergent short stories in here as well. Do I make sense this month? Absolutely not, and I have just realized my microphone was way too far away from me, so I hope you have heard what I was just talking about. I am all over the place today. Maybe it's because of these damn workers. They are drilling literally like there, like 20 centimeters from my head, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So I am not paying any attention to what I'm doing here, so hopefully everything will turn out fine. 3, 4, that was between books 1 and 2, I think, in Divergent. This one was the last one, and I hate this one so much. That goes there. What a finish to the series, right? Yeah, I just could not. Reached. No, Insurgent. Oh, I think I swapped these two, but that's fine. They have the same rating. Okay, Little Hatred. And oh, this is the Allegiant book cover, and this is for one of the short stories. This is one with the manifestos of all the factions. I just did not feel like having the same book cover in there twice. And this is Wisdom of Crowds. This I finished in July, but because I, for some reason, printed the book cover, I am going to put that in here. This got filled in so beautifully. Maybe next month we will be able to fill this whole spread. We'll see, because I am reading 2 chunks now in July, and yeah, this takes a lot of time. So we'll see, but if not in July, then in August we will fill this entire spread, which will be so beautiful. Okay, now statistics. I have, as always, already filled them all in. I finished 7 books, and I have read physically or digitally a lot. It was almost 1,000 pages. Also, I have listened to lots of audiobooks. It was more than 4,000 minutes. That's a lot. Average pages read per day is 102, which is again quite a lot. And okay, my average rating is just 3, because yeah, most of the books were 3 stars, maybe 3.5. There was 1 4-star, and I averaged all the ratings of all the Divergent short stories, and it turned out to be 1.5. If we ignore the short stories, the average rating would be a bit higher. Even though I was not the biggest fan of them, I am happy I finished all the short stories, so I have everything read, and I don't need to wonder if there is something I have not read. Okay, now let's do some coloring, because I have basically read the same things. There were 3 young adult dystopian books, and then there was 1 full series. There won't be that many different colors that I put in here. For all the dystopias, I'm going to add romance and sci-fi. Yeah, those are usually more sci-fi than fantasy. So 2 boxes for romance in both Divergent books and in the Reached book. And then for the short stories, I will do something similar. So short stories were last. That should be there. I will put same for those as well. Okay, so that was 837 in the Tombow water-based markers, and this is 553, this color I'm using for sci-fi. So let's fill all of those in. And then fantasy is 623, and those were the Joe Abercrombie books. So A Little Hatred, Trouble with Peace. Okay, and then there was 1 classic, and that's the 850 color. Yeah, that was quite quick. I do hope that I did not skip any of the books. Now for length, many of the books were actually chonkers, and there is one kind of absurd thing with these books, is that both the Age of Madness series books and Divergent series books were more than 500 pages long. But Age of Madness series was 20, 22, 23 hours long books, and Divergent series was like 11 hours. So yeah, there's a big discrepancy in that, and I can't even imagine how much blank space, how big of a margins are in the Divergent books. That's just a waste of paper. Anyway, let's color this in. I'm going to use the same blue for all the books that were between 500 and 600 pages. As I said, they were all the Divergent books. Even the Reached was more than 500 pages. And then the Abercrombie books as well. So we are adding in lots of blue. Lots of blue in here. Oh, okay, no. The Little Hatred was a little less than 500 pages. So I'm going to color over it with this purple, and whatever, guys, it does not really matter. I just like coloring things in. The classic was less than 200 pages, so that's this very pale color, and I counted all the pages of the Divergent short stories, and that was 263. So we are going with this kind of muted pink color for those. Okay, we added only pink and blue in here, and one purple that does not look like purple. That's fine. I am glad I have added more of these longer books in this tracker. Year published the Divergent series that was published in 2012 and 2013. So that's this pink one, the 673 colors. As well as Reached, and all the short stories, well, most of them were also published in that time range. So once again, the first 3 books have the same color, and short stories. The last one in 2017, so that's this purple. I think I have lost you here, guys, but I know what I'm doing. So you just have to trust me on that. Then there was the Age of Madness, and that was again this purple color. Okay, so this time it is pink and purple. Lovely. At least it will match a bit better with this decoration in the corner. And the classic was from 1872, so that's this color. I don't think I have read any book from this category yet, so that's nice. And now rating. There will be lots of 3 stars. So again, lots of this same purple color. First we had 2 3 stars. Then 3.5, that's the blue one. Then a 4 star, that was the Little Hatred. Yeah, that was definitely the best book of June. 3.5 again. Then a 3 star. Look, we have 3 stars under each other. And then the short stories, that was 1.5. That's this pale pink. I intentionally tried to put all the lighter colors for lower rated books and all the darker ones for the higher rated books. Today we are definitely more in the middle, but that's fine, totally fine. Okay, now classics and non-fiction. I'm going to add Carmilla for a classic. That was 3 stars. Now, series. Okay, I am so excited about this page today because we are going to color in some squares. So, June is orange. The Divergent. Guys, we can color in everything, every single square that is in here. The squares with dots, these are for all the short stories, and these squares without dots are the full-length novels. That's why there are that many squares for Divergent series, because yeah, she went ham on the short stories, and I don't know why. I finished the full series, so I'm coloring in this square. Then we have Matched. I read the last book in that series, so I can color this square as well. And the First Law World, I finished 2 books in June. I accidentally skipped the book of short stories that was before this series. I will read that someday. And the next 2 books I finished in July, and I don't know what color I will be using for July yet, so I'm going to color this in next month. But look at the progress, guys, and yeah, I accidentally have chosen extremely bright color, so you can see not everything I have colored in today, and I am so excited to finally make some progress on my series. Okay, now for Read My Shelf, I have nothing, but next month, guys, next month there will be stuff added in here. Now my Libro FM purchases, there is stuff I want to add in here. Next year I am definitely going to have some kind of audiobook tracker as well, because I just love that, and sometimes I kind of lost track of what all the audiobooks I have, so it is really nice to have this list in here and see what everything I have, or maybe what I would like to read next. Everything is in here and I don't have to open all the apps and look what I have. I just need to open the journal, and I love that I have that option. So from Libro FM I was listening to the Divergent series and the Carmilla. It's here. Okay, next are my Audible purchases. There is nothing I was reading from my Audible, but I have finally used up all my credits. So I cancelled my account, and my main account for audiobooks is now Libro FM. I just love them much more than Audible. There is always a link to this page down in the description. It works totally the same as Audible, but you are also supporting indie bookstores of your choice. That's absolutely beautiful. There won't be anything more added to this list unless there is a book I really want to read and I can't find it on the Libro FM website. Then I will get it from Audible. Now, I did unhaul some books. I am not sure about coloring this in. I will see how I will feel about that at the end of the year. But for now, this will stay blank. Okay, nothing for Hall of Fame, nothing for DNFs. There are a few trackers I don't much interact with anymore, so I'm going to skip those. 26 in 2026. There is nothing this time, but I am reading a book from this list in July. Okay, and for the rainbow, I do have Allegiant for orange. And yes, I do have some post-it notes in here because I clearly did not do my research when I was setting up this rainbow challenge, and I have picked some colors that are difficult to fulfill on my part, especially lilac. Every single lilac book is romance, and I don't want to read that. I found, I think, some middle grade book and some non-fiction, so I will probably read one of those. We'll see. But other than that, this challenge is being filled out pretty nicely. Now we have A to Z challenge, and I'm going to add again Allegiant for A. I have definitely reached a time when there will be much more difficult to fill in these challenges. That's what always happens, so I don't really care much about that. And we have 8 more letters to fill in. I don't know if I will be successful, but even this is, I think, already pretty nice. Okay, nothing for bingo this time. I'm so sad that I have nothing for bingo. Hopefully next month there will be something. For my reading pixels, I have already filled them in. There is a bit more of these darker colors this time, which means I was listening and reading more on those days, which I love to see. And nothing for these pages, but there is, as you guys know, one more journal we need to look at, and that's my reading challenges journal. I don't have a single book to put in my, where is this, in my Read Around the World challenge, so I skipped that immediately, but I do have books to add to my 2026 reading challenges. For Year of Goober, I'm going with A Little Hatred. For Mud Cake, and there is a book that is more than 300 pages. I could have picked any book for this challenge. Our prompts were either book with less than 300 pages or more than 300 pages. So whatever you have read, if it was not exactly 300 pages, you fulfilled June prompt, which is amazing. I have picked Little Hatred because it was my most enjoyed book of the month. For Buzzword Reading Challenge, I have one book to add in here, and that is again A Little Hatred for the silhouette on the cover. Down in the back you can see the silhouette of the town or of the factories, and I really like that detail, so I'm going to add this in here. Oh, I printed this comically large. Look at that. Okay, that's so bad. Well, I think I will just leave it like that. What was I doing? Whatever. Let's go to the next challenge. And this is Jellyfish Reading Challenge. And as you can see, it is already almost full. I only have 2 prompts to fulfill. And that's book with food on the cover or in the title. I feel like that's more of the contemporary books that can fulfill this prompt. So I was not really successful with this prompt yet, but we still have half a year for this prompt to get filled in. What prompt I was successful in reading for is for the Crown Jellyfish, and we needed to read a book about royalty or treasure. And I think A Little Hatred fulfills both royalty, both treasure prompts, so it was no-brainer to add this book in here. And yeah, it is again too big. It's fine. So there is only one prompt to finish in this challenge, and I am not as successful with buzzword, but as I said, we still have a lot of time to fulfill prompts for all of these challenges. Now let's look again at what I was working on today. So this is my calendar and all the books in here. I did not put all the Divergent short stories in here. I just put one as a representation of everything because I just did not want to needlessly fill in this full page with all the book covers. Now this monthly cover page is so simple yet stunning. I just love it. I love the colors. I love the simplicity of this. It's one of my favorites for sure. Now, for the Age of Madness, I just went with my typical layout for basically all the First World series books. I was happy to again use some of these skulls and some of these castles and stuff like that. I am really excited about how this spread had turned out. Now, for the Divergent, I was initially planning to use 2 pages for this full series, but I decided I don't really have that much more to say about it, so I just put everything on this page and added the title in here. In the end, I like how it looks, and I'm happy I decided to consolidate everything on this one page. Now for these two, I was not sure what I was doing, but in the end it turned out okay. I have used these new PET tapes and washi tapes from the washi tape shop in here. They are basically the same, but the PET tape has only white lace pieces and the washi tape has also black or dark brown pieces. And I thought this would complement the book covers, and I am happy with this page. And I decided that I'm going to add half star to the Reached, because after I recorded the voiceover for all of the books, I decided that I liked this book a bit more than as a 3-star, so I did half a star in there. I have one spread in here left blank because, as I said, I thought that I would put Divergent on 2 pages and then these 2 books would be here. So when I was filming my mid-year check-in, I put it on these pages, and you know what, it's fine. I will figure out what to do with this page next month. I think I will just continue with the book reviews in here, and I don't want to waste a full spread because this journal might not last me by the end of the year. I will do my best to put everything in here as last year, but I'm not sure I will be successful because this year I did not really care much about how many pages I would use for all of my reviews, but I had so much fun, so that was totally worth it. Okay, enough of my rambling because I don't even know what I'm talking about. These are all the pages I was working on today, and I'm truly happy with them. For how I was kind of not in a mood to work on these pages, they turned out so good. Okay, so yeah, let me know what were your favorite books of June or July. We are already halfway in July, so you can tell me your favorite books of July as well. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Have absolutely a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.